I am surprised with myself. I did not make a deck for one of my favorite Magic the Gathering cards of all time on this channel ever, outside of a single meme video. What is wrong with me? How's it going, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about a commander who is near and dear to my heart, who has a strategy that is near and dear to my heart that I landed on out of sheer frustration. But for some reason, I haven't made a deck about this character yet outside of a video where I covered a chat GPT generation of this deck, and just I do not like large language models in general, so watching it fail to construct a Magic deck was really funny to me. So we have today Dina Soulsteeper, and Dina is a commander that I desperately wanted to make work a long time ago when I was discovering the Aristocrat strategy for the first time. Now, if you've never played Aristocrats is a strategy where you sacrifice your own things to have benefit, where your opponent will lose cards by the merit of you sacrificing lots of cards. It's a pretty simple strategy, but if you've never played with it before, it can be hard to wrap your head around. So I tried playing Dina as a generic burn deck, and that didn't work. I tried playing her as a deck that tutored Exquisite Blood for the infinite combo, and that was boring. I then transitioned the deck into Beledros Witherbloom, and that worked, but it was frustrating to try to get to the mana value of Beledros, and I eventually landed on Savra, and you've seen me make a billion decks about Savra. But Dina is a deck that I started with and then ultimately built another version of later, and she became one of my favorite commander cards of all time. But for some reason, it just didn't occur to me that she deserved a $20 deck on this channel. So let's go ahead and correct the mistakes of my past. Let's go ahead and talk about Dina Soulsteeper. So Dina as a commander is awfully simple. If we gain life, every opponent will lose 1 life, and we can sacrifice any creature in order to give her some power. Very, very simple deck, and it's going to work really well with what Aristocrats want to do. So we're going to be running 10 Aristocrat pieces in this deck. These are all cards that do the thing that Aristocrats want to do. We want to see creatures die, and we want to burn our opponents based on those creatures dying. So we have Vindictive Vampire, which says whenever another creature we control dies, it'll deal 1 damage to every opponent and we gain a life. Venerated Stormsinger does the same thing. Vengeful Blood Witch does the same thing, but it targets an opponent when we do. Bastion of Remembrance does the same thing as the Vindictive Vampire, and the Death Greeter is a bit different. Death Greeter will allow us to gain a life whenever another creature is put into a graveyard from play. This normally would not be an Aristocrat piece, but with Dina Soulsteeper, our commander, on the board, this will ripple that burn damage to all of our opponents as soon as we gain the life from Death Greeter. So this means that Death Greeter alone may not be the most powerful Aristocrat piece, may not even be an Aristocrat piece, but combined with Starscape Cleric or Marauding Blight Priest or our own commander, he will be. We also have the Caesarean Voidborn. Whenever this creature or another creature artifact we control dies, target opponent loses a life and we gain 1 life. We have the Albeed Salvagers. These guys do the exact same thing. It'll just make an opponent lose a life and we gain a life. Normally, we would not run so many of these Blood Artist style effects, but Dina turns them into Zulaport Cutthroat style effects, where everybody is burning all at once. Then we have the Gate to the Afterlife, which will mix in this gain life ability with a discard and draw ability so that we can dig through our deck to get live cards. We're also going to be losing a lot of cards throughout the course of playing with this deck, so we need ways to get those back, and Vat of Rebirth is one of the best at that job. Reanimating any creature in our grave so long as it's seen 4 creatures die. Altar of Baal lets us get rid of tokens in order to reanimate creatures from our grave. Doom Necromancer can sacrifice himself to get creatures back from our grave. Victimize and Blood for Bones can sacrifice creatures in order to reanimate other creatures from our grave. We're also going to run the Phyrexian Delver, as we have plenty of life total to spare for this ability, and it just reanimates any creature from our grave while still being a creature itself, so we have another creature we can sacrifice with no problem. Speaking of sacrifice, we need lots of sack outlets, so we've got 6 of those, not counting our commander. The Bloodthorn, Vampire, Dross Hopper, and Viscera Seer can all sacrifice creatures for various effects. Vampiric Rites can sack creatures to draw cards, as can Tarian's Journal, and the Brood Butcher can sack creatures to give creatures -2/-2 until end of turn. He also spawns a token when he comes out. This guy can get rid of indestructible creatures by sacking our own, and that's really helpful. But sacrificing our own creatures does not come without cost. We need ways to keep creatures on the board in order to make these effects work. So we have 7 cards that do token production in our deck. Ghoulish Procession gives us a 2/2 black zombie creature whenever another creature dies. Ogre Slumlord gives us a 1/1 rat when another creature dies. Skeletal Swarming makes a 1/1 skeleton at the end of our turn, but it makes more skeletons if a creature has died. Namada replaces our opponent's death abilities with us spawning 1/1 green Saprolings. So they lose all dies triggers, and we gain Saprolings anytime their stuff dies. It's great. Then we have Dreadhorde Invasion, which gives us a zombie token at the beginning of our turn. Golgari Germination, which gives us a Saproling token anytime a non-token creature we have dies. And Open the Grave, which will spawn a 2/2 black zombie every time a non-token creature we control dies. All in all, that's everything we're going to be running to do the core strategy of Dina Soulsteeper. Make a lot of tokens, sacrifice them for benefit, burn our opponents to death. Those are the rules of the game. So let's go ahead and see what else we need in order to make this strategy work. Now, we're already running a few cards that draw us cards in other areas of the deck, so we're running a 9-card dedicated draw package. We have some weaker draw cards like Shesra and Wardens of the Cycle, which only draw us at the end of our turn if our creatures have died, but we have stronger ones like Moldervine Reclamation, which draw us whenever a creature dies, period, or Morbid Opportunist or Deathreap Ritual, which draw once if a creature has died on anybody's turn, whereas the Moldervine only sees our own creatures. We're also running Village Rites, Deadly Dispute, Costly Plunder, and Altar's Reap as ways to sack our own creatures to draw multiple cards. Now, for removal and interaction, we are running quite a few. We need to make sure our opponents do not get back up after we have kicked them to the ground. So let's talk about each of these boys. We have Rise of the Witch King, which reanimates a card from our graveyard if we sack a creature with this, and it sacks a creature on every opponent's board. Deadly Brew does the same thing, sacking a creature on every opponent's board as well as our own, and giving us a permanent from our grave back to our hand. We're also running Demon's Disciple, Plaguecrafter, and a Cursed Marauder to make everybody sacrifice all at the same time. And we have a Witch of the Moors, which sees creatures dying and turns them into our opponent sacrificing creatures at the end of their turn. But we also have Butcher of Malakir and Savra, which turn our own creatures dying into extra sacrifices for all of our opponents. Or Eldest Reborn, which forces our opponents to sacrifice a creature, then discard a card, then reanimates a creature from anybody's graveyard. We're also running a Scavenging Ooze to get rid of things in our opponent's graveyard so that they don't come back to haunt us. And then we have a Mortality Spear and a Binding the Old Gods to get rid of any kind of non-land permanent that we may need. The Binding also doubles as a ramp piece later in the game. Then we have Pest Infestation, which we can dump a lot of mana into to spawn a lot of tokens, but also blow up a myriad of artifacts and enchantments that might have threatened us during the course of the game. Then for board wipes, we have a Gaze of Granite to get rid of everything on the board all at once. We're a graveyard deck, so we can recover from this better than our opponents. Oblivion Stone to do the same thing, and Necromantic Selection to blow up everything and then reanimate exactly one thing. Get back our Butcher of Malakir, or get back our commander, or get back an opponent's commander. Whatever you need, this card can do it for you. For mana, we're not having to do terribly much because we are a very low-to-the-ground deck, so let's see what we're running. We're running a Search for Tomorrow and a Sakura Tribe Elder to get basic lands out of our deck, a Dawn Treader Elk, and, well, it's the same thing. It's Dawn Treader Elk along with the Sakura Tribe Elder and a Diligent Farmhand. All of these can sacrifice themselves to get basic lands out of the deck. Gala Greeters can make treasures or give us life whenever things pop onto the battlefield. Honest Rutstein discounts our 34 creatures by 1 and also gives us a card from our graveyard back. Prosperous Innkeeper gives us life when things enter the battlefield and also generates us a treasure token when it comes out. And Wood Elves grabs any forest out of our deck at all so that we can get a dual land out if we need. And then sack the Wood Elves later because we don't need the Wood Elves for anything other than Token being a warm body that can fuel our resources. For lands, we are leaning more on black, so we only have 9 forests but 13 swamps, with our dual lands being the untapped Necroblossom Snarl, Tainted Wood, Command Tower, Viridescent Bog, and, well, that's it, because all the other ones are tapped. Golgari Rot Farm to reuse any of our utility lands, Haunted Mire because it is searchable with Binding the Old Gods and Wood Elves, Temple of Malady for the early game scry, and a Jungle Hollow, which I normally wouldn't run, but it does trigger Dina, so we'll keep it. Then we have the fetching lands of Myriad Landscape and a Terramorphic Expanse. Not running much more here because I don't want to break the budget of the deck past $20 and some change, but you can run more if you want. It's fine. Evolving Wilds is fine to run more of. But we are running a bunch of utility lands. Pit of Offerings to get rid of things in our opponent's graveyards, Radiant Fountain and Sapseat Forest as they allow us to gain life, High Market, which gains us life and lets us sack creatures, and Grim Backwoods, which lets us sack creatures to draw cards. And that does it for everything in our deck. Now, all that's left to do is talk about how to play it. Alrighty, looking at the hand we have now, we've got a lot of lands, and we've got Galagreeters, so I'm actually super confident in this. Let's go ahead and play that Terramorphic Expanse, crack it, go into our library, get ourselves a swamp, and pass to our opponents. Moving into the next turn, we have a Brood Butcher. Not what I wanted to see, but we're going to go ahead and play the correct land and get Galagreeters out on the board, and then move into turn 3, where we can go ahead and play... Pay 1-2, let's get Dina Soul Steeper out. That'll generate a treasure token so that we can use that for later. And we're going to go ahead and put this forest in our hand to put the Golgari Rot Farm down and pass to our opponents. Moving into turn 4, let's go ahead and play that forest. And we've got a lot of options for what we can do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's get the Moldervine Reclamation out and ready to go. I think that's the most important card we could play right now. And then moving into the next turn, we go ahead and play a Swamp. We have 5 mana available to us. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go ahead and get the Brood Butcher out. Brood Butcher comes out, and it's going to make a colorless Eldrazi spawn. So let's go ahead and summon the spawn now. And with the spawn, or the Eldrazi Scion, sorry. With the Scion, we can use that in a follow-up turn. The Galagreeter sees those, burns our opponent for 1 with Dina Soul Steeper, and then because the Eldrazi is out, we also get to generate a treasure token. So let's get that out on the board and ready to go for a follow-up turn. Moving into turn 6, let's play Tainted Wood, everybody's worst nightmare when they wake up in the morning. And let's tap 1, 2. Let's use Altar's Reap on the Eldrazi Scion to draw 2 cards. That's going to draw us an extra card because of Moldervine and burn our opponents for 1 more because of Dina. We got Golgari Germination, super helpful for later. We can go ahead and get that out now. Let's get Golgari Germination online, so when we sack things now, we will generate new stuff. And let's go ahead and get rid of this treasure token and get the Dreadhorde Invasion out, so we'll have a token when our follow-up turn comes up. Moving into turn 7, it's time to start disrupting our opponents. We get to spawn a zombie creature token thanks to our Dreadhorde Invasion. Let's play a land, tap 2, get the Vengeful Blood Witch out. Now we can do lots of burn damage as we do stuff. We have a Terramorphic Expanse and an Altar's Reap in the grave. I really don't want Rise of the Witch King to just kind of suck here. So let's get Gate to the Afterlife out and ready to go. If a non-token creature we control dies, we can gain a life and then draw a card. Also, we gained life from the zombie army coming out. I guess what we have to do now is use Dina to sacrifice the Blood Butcher, because that'll draw us a card and discard a card. And it does the life gain, and we draw an extra card from Moldervine Reclamation. I think that was the right play. That was definitely the right play. Let's also sacrifice the zombie army to Dina, burning our opponents for even more, and then drawing a card from Moldervine Reclamation. There we go. I'm super confident in this setup now. And because we sacrificed a non-token creature at one point, we are able to make that Saproling out. I'd say we're fully set up now. We are fully set up. Because even though we can't disrupt our opponents just yet, we will be able to when our turn comes up. We get to do our thing. Dreadhorde Invasion makes its zombie army token. Let's play Grim Backwoods. And yeah, let's just go ahead and hurt our opponents a lot. Let's pay 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go ahead and play Rise of the Witch King, making everybody sack a creature. That draws us a card because of Moldervine, burning our opponents for 2 because of Vengeful Blood Witch and Dina. And then that's going to get the Blood Butcher out, which is going to generate us life, burning our opponents for 1. That's going to make an Eldrazi spawn because we did that. And then, because the Eldrazi spawns out, we also make a... Why am I restarting? We also make a treasure token. Let's get that out. Treasure token's out. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana available to us to do with whatever we want. So let's go ahead and pay 3. Play the Demon's Disciple. It sacks itself automatically, which will create a Saproling token for us. And burn our opponents for, well, it was a non-token creature that died. So Gate sees that, burns our opponents for 1 because of Dina. Vengeful sees that, burns our opponent for 1 because of Dina. Moldervine sees that, burns our opponents for 1 because of Dina. Vengeful sees that, so it burns our opponents for 1 because of the Vengeful. And now we've got some mana to play around with. Let's go ahead and screw our opponents even more. Let's sack the Eldrazi Scion to generate a mana, burning our opponents for 1 because of Blood Witch, 1 because of Moldervine, and 1 because of Dina with the Blood Witch. Yep, that's what we do. And then let's use the 2 mana we have available to sack the Saprolings that we've spawned in order to draw 2 more cards and burn our opponents for even more. Every Saproling we sack burns our opponents for 2 minimum and an extra 3 if the Vengeful Blood Witch targets the person that we hit. And now we are set up to play a Vat of Rebirth on the next turn, which will let us get more things out as we go. We've also gotten rid of 2 creatures from every opponent's board, so we have set them back a little bit. If we needed to, we would have had the Necromantic Selection. Let's see what a turn 9 would have looked like. We play a Swamp, sack the treasure. We have the Dreadhorde Invasion token. That token burns everybody for 1 because of Galagreeters. Okay, we pay 1, Vat of Rebirth, and then, man, I wish we had a regular sack outlet, but we just kind of have Dina. Dina's not a bad sack outlet, I just would have preferred a bit more. But we can pay 1, sack the Dreadhorde token, that gives us a card, burning for 2. There's the Vampiric Rites, Vat of Rebirth, sees that, gets a counter. Let's tap 1 for Dina. Sacrifice the Brood Butcher that burns our opponents for 2. Vat of Rebirth sees that. That draws us a card. That's Witch of the Moors. Let's pay 1. Sacrifice the spawn that we get from the Germination. Moldervine sees that. Burns our opponents for 2. There we are. Now we can go ahead and pay 1. Sack the Galagreeters. Yeah, the Galagreeter. No. The Vengeful Blood Witch, I think. We sack the Blood Witch to burn our opponents for more, and then pay 3 to play Victimize. And Victimize summons the Vengeful Blood Witch and the Butcher, getting us the Eldrazi spawn tokens, and then we can sacrifice those tokens, burning our opponents down. We're basically doing 40 damage here. Like, we are winning the game right here. And we had other plays to reset the board if need be. We have an Oblivion Stone. We have a Necromantic Selection. We have ways of slowing our opponents down if that's the move that we need to rely on. But we don't need to rely on those moves if we have a setup like this. So the cool thing about Aristocrats is how much power you can shoot into it with only a little bit of change. Now, Ayara, First of Lochthwain, is about $7, but some more powerful upgrades could be the Zulaport Cutthroat, who's usually about $2, Blood Artist, who's usually about $2 as well, Enduring Tenacity is about $4 right now and gives us yet another version of the commander's ability. Blightmount is sitting at about $3, and this gives you one of the best token generators of the game, along with Beledros Witherbloom. Essence Warden's also only a couple bucks. Ophiomancer gives you more token generation. Revitalizing Repast and any MDFC will always power up a deck. And Vraska will allow you to sacrifice things for not only draw power, but also give you access to a really good removal spell if you need. All in all, Dina's a pretty easy deck to upgrade, though at this power level, you're going to be just fine playing her as she is. That said, let me know if there are any upgrades you would put in this deck, because I think she works fine just like this, but that's just me. I may go ahead and get this deck in paper because it is a variant on something I've already played a ton of, and I don't have a lower price Aristocrat deck to play in paper right now. So if you're at my card shop, you may be seeing this in my $15 box soon. I don't know. It depends. We'll see. But I do really enjoy Dina. I've tested her for years. She is fun as hell. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here.